Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to High Point Market. How fantastic. Okay, so my first question is always, how's the feet? We've made it to 3 o'clock. We're feeling okay. I see some of my tour folks, my first timers from early this morning. Everybody's still hanging in. We're smiling. Fantastic. We are so excited to see you all here today. I'm Tammy Covington-Nagum, the President and CEO of the High Point Market Authority. Our organization is the overall sponsor of this show, so we're handling all the logistics and the marketing and the guest experience for you all, so we're very happy to have you here today. And we're also very happy to be partnering with our friends at the Design Leadership Network to bring you today's keynote. Before I introduce our moderator, though, I just want to preview a few things happening this evening to make sure, and the next couple evenings actually, to make sure you all know what's coming up here at High Point. So tonight, across the street in the Showplace parking lot, we call it Center Stage, we have a great cover band. I'm going to test everyone's ears right now. It's called Funk You. See, I did that right. So I know better than to come out and just say that, and I'll get everyone's attention. Great energy, a lot of fun. Band goes on at 7 o'clock tonight. And tomorrow night, do y'all know who's here tomorrow night? Belle Biv DeVoe is here tomorrow night. Yay. So 16-year-old Tammy with mall hair and baggy clothes is very excited for tomorrow night. So hope to see you all out there tomorrow night. Let's talk a little bit about what we have coming up for you right now. We have an inspirational panel for you all, appearing in conjunction with the debut of a new book called The Living Room by the Design Leadership Network. To bring our panelists out today, speaking on how luxury clients are living today, help me welcome to the stage our moderator and friend from DLN, Hadley Keller.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Oh, yeah, that's loud. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am Hadley Keller. As Tammy said, Tammy, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm the editorial director at the Design Leadership Network. We are a professional organization for leaders of interior design, architecture, landscape design, and other creative firms. And we're supported by partner brands, many of whom are here at Market, one of whom is High Point Market itself. So I'm very excited to be joined today by an extremely talented lineup of creative professionals. I'm sure you know this lineup here, and they probably don't even need an introduction, but nevertheless, I will give one. So first off, down all the way on our left, Sasha Bykoff. Native of New York City, she's known for her exuberant use of bold color. She's designed everything from restaurants to boutiques to exercise studios, in addition to residential interiors. She debuted her first collection with Abner Henry at High Point last market and is launching part 2 this season, so make sure you go see that. Next up, Corey Damon Jenkins, a native of Detroit. Oh, wow, we got fans, I love it. Detroit native, now based in New York City. Corey has been named to Architectural Digest AD100 and Elle Decor's A-List. He's currently working on a second book following his first design remix. Here at High Point, he has partnerships with Kravitt, Maitland Smith, Hancock Moore, and Left Bank Art, so you'll see a lot of him around here. Kim Scodro in the middle. Woo! Kim offers boutique interior design services from offices in Chicago and Georgia, where she focuses on residential design for both new builds and renovations. Her style is often described as elegant, refined, inviting. She launched her first licensed collection with Hickory Chair in 2018 and is releasing new introductions this market. She's also just back. I'm in awe of this, her energy right now, just back from installing the dining room at the Kips Bay Decorator Show House in Dallas, which is beautiful. So check that out if you're in the Dallas area or on Instagram. Finally, right here we have Barclay Butera, who is celebrating the 30th anniversary this year of his firm. He has run his studio out of Newport Beach for 30 years and subsequently opened offices in Park City, Utah and Corona del Mar, California. He has authored several books and has many licensed lines with brands including Cravat, Eastern Accents, Jaipur Living, Lexington Home Brands, and he is launching the Barclay Butera couture line at Fine Art Handcrafted Lighting today from 4 to 6, right upstairs. So he'll be leaving us a couple minutes early, but be sure to head there afterwards and see him. So, without further ado, as you may have seen, our main kind of impetus for being here on stage today is that the DLN has just published The Living Room with Aseline. And this is kind of a hefty tome of a book. It weighs 5 pounds. And it features over 200 spaces by our very talented members. You'll see up there, we didn't bring copies here because it's very heavy. There is a QR code there if you'd like to scan and purchase the book. And I will do my little kind of shill here, which is that link will take you to the DLN site to buy the book, which means you'll get it at a discount as opposed to buying it through Aseline. So please order away. So obviously, as you can see from some of the spaces shown up here, this book is, full of serious design inspiration. But because residential spaces are so personal, it's also kind of an exploration, right, on how clients are really living today and what they're wanting and what that means for the professionals designing their spaces, which is all of those on stage with us and many of you. So we thought this would be the perfect topic to dive into here at High Point Market. So we're going to dive a little bit into the kind of changing nature of the design industry and market, some trends with the market, trends with clients that we're seeing, and talk about how design professionals can best kind of harness those changes for their businesses. There will be time for some questions at the end, so please, if you think of anything, if you want to follow up, make note of those during our chat, and we'll try to get to as many as possible. Anyway, let's kick it off. Okay, so I'm going to start off, and I'm looking at you, Corey. I'm starting with you. So in some of our prep calls, we spoke a lot about this concept of the kind of changing nature of luxury and the market and what that means. And you mentioned, Corey, this, what you described as a kind of shift towards authenticity. Can you tell us what that means to you and how you make the most of that and how other designers can too?
Sure. So I think that many clients who are hiring interior designers, they have the means to do so. It's a luxury market, right? And I think for many people who are wealthy, they are in a small bubble, if you will, and they don't have a ton of friends sometimes because a lot of the people that they are in orbit with are often looking for ways to take advantage of them, right? And so I think that the days of designers being very haughty and stuck up and very condescending with their approach, the whole, we were over in the south of France and we found this mirror submerged in the dirt and we unearthed it and dusted it off and flew it back to the States and hung it over our fireplace.
I don't know, I'd buy those mirrors.
And, people are over that. And I think that the pandemic especially kind of shifted people towards this need for designers to be more authentic, because I think that the wealthy among us that are hiring us, they often are going to only accept into their inner circle people that they can trust, that are down to earth, that are keeping it real, and that are accessible and relatable. So I think for our work, no matter how elaborate or how big the budgets may be for our design, if we as professionals are not down to earth and keeping it real and taking off that varnish that I think people often associate with interior designers, I think that can open up pathways to get really great clients and build great relationships.
Absolutely. That's a great point, and I think we're going to dive more into those relationships too. But I want to talk a little bit also about the kind of idea of authenticity and of kind of originality and from an aesthetic point of view too. And Sasha, I'm going to direct this one to you. I think all of you on this stage do a lot of really kind of we all do bespoke interiors. Obviously, everything's kind of made personally for that client, but custom furniture, one-of-a-kind things. Sasha, how do you convince clients to embrace kind of those more custom, more original options, even if it might mean a higher price tag?
I think that right now we're seeing kind of a sea of everything almost looking the same, and clients really want their home to reflect who they are, their passions in life, what they do, where they come from. And I think the best way to display that is to be able to make custom, beautiful pieces for their home that tell a story, that take you on a journey. And I think personally, the biggest luxury for our clients is to give them furnishings that are unique, that display a level of craftsmanship where you are able to customize and work through that process with them, picking out different finishes and colors and having them kind of involved in it. I think it's kind of like builds this relationship, and I think it makes them feel like, you know, they're really a part of the process at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, kind of piggybacking off that, you know, I think we've probably all by now heard the term fast furniture, kind of building off of the term of fast fashion and the fashion industry, which is really kind of the antithesis of the ethos here at High Point, right? And so many of this kind of high quality, often American-made, you know, customizable furniture. Kim, can you talk to us a little bit about how you kind of, you know, you embrace that and you encourage your clients to really embrace quality and sustainability?
Exactly, and I think as long as people know if you buy a good quality piece of furniture, you can always reinvent it. You can reupholster it. Not an inexpensive endeavor, but you can reupholster it. You can add a skirt to it. You could add a trim to it. So for them to think that if they're investing in this, and it can take on a new life. I mean, you're not talking about taking on a new husband or something like that, but
sometimes the client might need that too.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you can take that investment and bring it back to life and use it again, of course, when we go in as designers, sometimes we're like, oh, it's just better to just buy a whole new piece. It's really expensive to reupholster things. But you know, if something is comfortable and they love it, embrace that. I mean, use it again. And I think that is helpful when you explain that to people.
So obviously one of the things I love about having this group on stage is in addition to, you know, designing interiors, you all have designed product lines, furniture lines here at High Point. And I'm going to start this one to you, Barclay, but anyone else can feel free to jump in too. Can you talk a little bit about how some of this kind of ethos of, you know, originality and quality, how does that, you know, play into your product as well as your interior work?
You know, I've been very blessed to have a lot of lines here. I think, Christine, it's like 15 lines we've introduced, and just signed my 16th contract for home. So I do a lot with licensing, and having that blessing is allowing me to have a lot of creativity in what I do. Yeah. And that's expressed in all product lines that I create, but also being a person that owns a large firm, 38 people, 16 interior designers I work with for my company, you get to see like how to express yourself with your specific clients. And I go into this because Corey brought up the fact that people do become very kind of secluded the more money they make. And they feel like they're, or they could be taken advantage of. And so there is a sense of like you developing a relationship that's a true friendship with your clients, and it gives you the opportunity to be, like if you look at it, we're therapists for the home. So we know more about the home than a therapist does. We know what are in those drawers. We know what's in the bathroom. We know it all. You know
who sleeps where.
So, but I think that that's what's so great about us is that friendships develop into trust, which develops into creativity, where they believe in what you're doing in design, and they don't feel like they're getting gouged, and they feel like, hey, he or she wants to reupholster my sofa. It's not all about a brand new sofa, and I think that's a very good point. Is we're not here just to charge them. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think kind of going hand in hand with that idea of, you know, clients trusting you and you becoming close to them is, you know, this idea of kind of educating your client too, right? I often hear manufacturers say, and I don't know if there are some manufacturers in this room who might agree, that really designers are their most important salespeople, right? You're the ones that are convincing your clients to spend on the right things. So Sasha, can you tell us a little bit about kind of how important that education is with your clients and how you prioritize it, how you incorporate it into your work?
Yeah, I mean, even with my collection with Abner Henry, when we started this collection together, they're master wood craftsmen, and they have over 700 different finishes. So I wanted to do a postmodern kind of Memphis-inspired collection. a lot of people, I realize, don't really know about this design movement. The Memphis movement was really short-lived in the 80s, but I wanted to bring that to High Point. And I, sit in the showroom and I teach people about it, and we go through the different shapes and all those elements that inspired different designers. So It's Us and all of them from the Memphis movement, and it's something I really enjoy, and it's nice to open people's eyes to past history and design history, and I think that that's kind of what I do with my clients, and you incorporate these different elements into the story of their home, and they become conversation pieces, they become statement pieces, and it excites people to see something different and see something new.
Absolutely, and obviously a big part of that is you yourself having to kind of stay educated. I'm going to pose this one to you first, Kim, but anyone else also feel free to jump in. How do you, as a designer, kind of stay educated about new products, capabilities, and kind of keep refreshed on those elements of design history, maybe?
Well, the design history, you have to be diligent. You have to read. You have to pay attention. But I think for me as a designer, coming to High Point Market and doing quality checks at the different showrooms, it might be a vendor that you used for quite some time, and you want to keep going back and make sure that their quality is still at the same level. Relying on your reps. All of us in this room are in the same profession. Relying on your reps to let you know so that you are able to take that education and bring that to your client and say, hey, listen, I know that they've stepped up their foam or their fill or whatever, and you're able to share that, and I think that's really important. So getting out there, seeing things, learning, coming to High Point Market, going to different showrooms, and having your reps come in. Sometimes it's sort of a hassle. You're busy. You don't have time, but have them come in and educate you so you can educate your client.
It takes a lot of humility, truly, to design licensed product. When you are engaging with these licensees and producing these pieces of furniture or fabric collections, they know what sells. They know what the marketplace is looking for. They know what their constituencies are, if you will, in terms of what sells in certain markets in the country and around the world. And so I think sometimes designers may approach a licensed collection thinking this is a great chance for them to get their name out there and to build their brand, and that is certainly a part of it. But the prestige has to take a back seat sometimes to the actual learning curve of what actually sells. And a good part of what we have to do as licensors is understanding that we're designing for the masses. So the pitch of the sofa, the depth, the fill, the curvature, the price point, the freight management to get it from A to B. Yeah. These are all things that we have to develop and design in our process. And sometimes what we want to do to make a big statement, this big splashy moment in the product development, has to sometimes take a back seat to what will sell. And you have to be really humble to accept that constructive feedback from your partners, because they know that if it doesn't work well and it bombs, the bomb is on you. And your name will be sullied. So it's important to be humble.
No, I would agree with that. I think humility is very important in this whole industry, to tell you the truth. And my inspiration comes from everywhere: cinema, travel, the way we dress, and actually other interior designers. I do find a lot of inspiration in people that maybe will step out in an area I won't will. Yeah. Or I kind of learn from that and say, this is an area where I really didn't think I would go to. But going back to going and working with licensed partners, it is very important. Like what I do with Lexington Home Brands is, even though it's that price point, I elevate it by the way we display. So it's really well done and well edited in how we display the product, and that goes with any of my licensed lines, is that I think that visually it's about telling a story. Yeah.
Okay, well, you unknowingly really set me up well for this next question, which is kind of this idea of storytelling. And I personally kind of hate the word trend, and I hate talking about what are the trends that are happening. But so maybe I have a bias, but I really think that one of the things we've seen in recent years, maybe since the pandemic, spending more time at home, and certainly, definitely with this book, is that clients are kind of focusing less on, I want this specific trend in my home. as opposed to this is how I want to live. And Sasha, you kind of spoke to that too, that making these things more personal. I want to dig a little bit more into that, into the kind of, instead of just what it looks like, how am I living in this space? Corey, do you want to speak to that first? Are you seeing that with your clients, and how does that manifest in your process maybe?
Well, I always tell our clients that we don't follow the trends, we set them. We set them. And so they have to trust us to take them outside of their comfort zone and to push them and nudge them gently, but ever so firmly towards a new beginning for their home. I think during the great pandemic, a lot of clients that we have worked for in the past humbly reached out to us. And I really love this part of our job because as caretakers, we really are, we look after these clients. We care about them, their children. We are caring for their needs. And like doctors who offer prescriptions based upon, very careful trials that we've done in other clients' homes or at our own homes, when they don't accept the prescription and they insist on the gray beige room that we told them was going to be an absolute fail, then they called us back during the pandemic, and they were like, I've been stuck in this room for 5 months, and I hate this room. It's gray and it's beige, and I hate this space.
We told you so.
And I'm like, really? You hate the color gray? Yeah, I told you it was going to happen 2 years ago. And so you come back humbly and help them figure it out. So I think that we try to always give the clients the option, a good, better, best. This is basic. This is awesome. This is amazing, and push them towards the amazing. Yeah.
One thing, this is kind of a little bit of a shift here, but one thing we've been talking about a lot at the DLN and a lot of conversations is this idea of kind of hospitality and residential kind of overlapping a little. Obviously, this book is pretty focused on residential, but I think we're seeing more and more this kind of convergence that and kind of convergence both ways, right? It used to be that kind of, we had the boutique hotel movement where hoteliers wanted spaces to feel residential. Now I think especially with the clientele that, you all have that's very well traveled, they're maybe kind of taking some of those influences from, hotels from around the world into their spaces. Are you seeing this kind of idea in your work of perhaps the hospitality kind of influencing the residential? Sasha, I'll put that to you first, but would love to hear anyone else.
Definitely. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of clients want multiple different kind of seating situations, a cocktail area, a dessert area, but also a TV area. I'm seeing people that want kind of like functional furniture, like a coffee table that maybe has a ice bucket integrated in it, or illuminated furniture, like furniture pieces that are multifunctional. Like I just designed a piece for Abner Henry that it's a swivel coffee table, and I keep joking around like it's the largest Lazy Susan. Like I'm like past the champagne. Whoop. Yep. So I'm seeing a lot of that. I mean, we just did a living room, and we have a TV area, we have a more formal area, we have like another little area for snacks and things like that. So I'm definitely seeing this kind of hotel lobby, hotel vibe situation. Like vestibules and foyers are starting to feel a little bit more cozy and warmer and inviting, almost like a reception at a hotel. So I think like now no room is kind of left unspoken for. Every little moment matters.
And people really want speakeasies.
Yes. Ooh, all right.
So the whole thing about hiding, so people want to hide from their children. They want to hide from their in-laws.
When we say how do they want to live, that's how they want to live.
They want to live. They want to hide. So I find that people are now asking for secret lairs, like hidden speakeasies and secret boutiques and little hidden powder rooms. And we did a project on the Upper East Side of New York where in her walk-in closet, you press this panel and you kind of, it slides to the right, and there's a tub, a clawfoot tub, just the tub, no sink, just the tub with plumbing, obviously, and she can just slip away and escape from everyone and soak.
Okay, I want that.
It's awesome. Yeah.
I want that after a long day at High Point.
So
Kim,
fun.
I see you nodding.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything to that?
I just think that sounds fabulous. I think that sounds amazing. Can you do one for me? I'd love that.
I'll take one too. All right. Thank you.
I also think we'll sometimes have clients say to us, I want it to have that clubby feeling.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Like Studio 54, Ralph Lauren,
Country
like
club, yeah.
what exactly does that mean? And I feel like these social clubs are having a big influence in people, and there's more and more of them popping up. In fact, the Dallas Show House, they're turning that into a social club. Apparently they're big in Dallas, social clubs.
They're big. There are 2 new ones opening in DC where I am.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're having
it's a
We
thing.
have dinner clubs now, like just
Yeah.
literally like dining clubs
And
in Newport. Yeah.
it's like a membership you pay
membership,
to.
yeah.
Okay.
Invite, and then your membership fees, and it's amazing, like how you're seeing this kind of trend towards these private areas that you kind of can escape
And now they
to.
want you. They'll say, "Hey, Barkley, can you make my house feel like that private dinner club?" And I feel like anywhere people are getting influence and they're trying to bring that into the home, which great, that's awesome. I just don't always fully understand what clubby means.
All right, more research on that.
Well, I would bring up one thing is that I also live part of my life in Cabo, San Lucas, and the Almond Brothers, which I don't know if you've experienced an Almond hotel, is that I'll have clients come back from the Almond experience, and then all of a sudden when they're building in Park City, Utah, it's contemporary, it's simplicity, it's less clutter, and it's glass and steel. So it's like, okay, I just experienced this, and this is the way I want to live. Or they go to Miramar in Montecito, and it looks like a grand, like beautiful Connecticut home, and they go in there, and it's like spectacular. So here's a totally different way of living at a boutique hotel, but there's 2 dramatically different experiences. Yeah.
I think you may have just answered my next question, but if you want to add on to it, and then I'll pass it along too. But one of the other things I wanted to ask about is, you all on the stage, I think, are designing for many clients who have multiple homes. And I'm so curious, are you finding that those clients are kind of wanting the same elements home to home, or are they really almost kind of treating it like fashion, like I'm exploring a different personality in my home in a different city? Barkley, it sounds like for you it's maybe more the latter.
Yeah, I mean, just experiencing these people that maybe have 3 or 4 homes. It's it's that luxury for sure, but they don't want to live the exact same way in every home that they have. So it might be that they're going to do a departure and they went to Marrakesh and they're going to be inspired by Marrakesh, or it might be that simplicity with going to a German architect who does steel and glass so well that I see it kind of everywhere. Being in Newport, it's Cape Cod, and so you have a really strong Cape Cod feel. But it is interesting that people with multiple homes like to live different ways in each home. So.
Yeah, I think that it's important for the designers also to keep track of all those different multiple personalities in those homes.
Added to the ways designers are like therapists too.
Yeah, you have to, because when you pitch, like we have a wonderful client who has 4 different homes on this earth. And one of them is an apartment in the New York City area. And then the other 3 homes are massive, 2 in this country, 1 outside. But they're all very different personalities. The one in DC is much more formal. The one on the shore is much more casual. We have to keep track of all of those things. It shows respect for the client when you
it's
don't.
Almost like 4 different clients you're working for,
It
right?
is, and you can't pitch this fabric. You can't pitch gingham if it's meant for the shore. If it's, if you're working on the house in the city, right? And the clients feel that if they're investing in your firm and your brand and you can't keep track of these various details, they are wondering, well, how invested are you in my life? I told you I don't want purple on the shore. I want blue and white, and I want gingham and stripes, and I want checkers, right? And so you have to be managing all those details, and if you have multiple clients with multiple homes, it's all that much more detailed to manage. So that's why we get paid the big bucks to do our due diligence and to manage these clients as the patients that they require of us to deliver.
Absolutely. Speaking of all those houses, I think we're kind of getting at this too, that a lot of you're really kind of working with an ever global clientele now. I'm curious, kind of getting a little bit into the nitty gritty. Have any of you had to change your business practice, the way your firm works, your kind of processes in any way to kind of better serve clients that are really all over the world, maybe in different countries, having residences in different places? I'll open this to anyone. Sasa, do you want to start?
I was going to say real quick is that I've taken my company down from 7 locations to 2, and there's only 1 left that's brick and mortar. So I think that really what's a shame is that brick and mortar is going away. And people can't afford to keep brick and mortar. And my Park City location I own, and we've redone it. It's very contemporary. It's indicative of what people want up there. But again, it's a design studio, and it's not retail any longer. Yeah. So I think that that us even departing from brick and mortar, I'll keep the original location, but more design studios will be important to what we do in the future. Yeah.
I think we've definitely had to change things around when working internationally or in secluded places. We just did a project in Bermuda, and we got an Airbnb, and we flew all of my installers down there, and we got work permits, and we did everything, because that is a way that you can have control over the quality and the installation process. And I realize that sometimes if you take the risk of working with people that you haven't worked with before, or who are not knowledgeable in maybe like panoramic scene wallpapers and silk back wallpapers, or specialty finishes like plasters, or, you know, it's going to cost your client or you more in the long run to fix everything. So we, you know, took the extra mile to do that, and it ended up, you know, it ends up working out better. So I think it's important to always kind of trust your gut instincts and not take any risks when you're, you know, international and secluded islands and areas to...
Yeah, island design is a whole, that's a whole fun... Did you have to kind of convince the client, was that something you had to kind of talk the client into, is like, hey, we're baking this into the fee, but it's going to be worth it, and were they open to it?
Yeah, I mean, you say to the client, you know, this is the design intention, this is what we want to do, this is your home. If you want to do this, then we're going to have to, you know, handle it correctly and properly. We're going to have to send all these people down. And a lot of them really understand it, because these places are so small, it's really hard to get anything done also. So if you want things done on time, you just gotta kind of handle it yourself sometimes. But
love it. Yeah. You want to add?
I was just going to say that it's also incumbent upon us as designers to really get out there and travel, even when we're not on assignment, to get really well acquainted with other marketplaces around our earth, to get well acquainted with Europe, get well acquainted with, you know, the Southern American countries and different parts of our planet where work may come, because you don't want to necessarily get caught, you know, I don't want to say with your pants down, but keep your pants up. You don't want to get caught without a shopping cart or whatever, and not be able to do a job that comes to you in, say, London or the south of France, whatever. So it's good for you to get out there and see the world, go to Thailand, you know, travel around the planet and get well acquainted with how the currency works. Where are the antique flea markets located? You know, where do people work or get work rooms and other resources? That way you get that great job when your client calls you to take you overseas. You're at least prepared to understand the geographic impact of the assignment. You can speak with conviction that I can do this job, I can be there in 3 days on your private plane, and we'll work it out.
Always put that in the contract. No, that's a great point. And I think whether it's kind of inspiration travel or scouting or going to markets, you know, I think sometimes, you know, designers aren't, you can kind of like downplay yourself and think, oh no, I'm spending so much time away from the office, but really all of those trips are increasing your value to your clients, right? So that's how you need to think of them. So another, you know, in addition to this kind of globalization, another kind of, you know, change to our kind of current market that we've seen is an increasing instance of multi-generational living, and I want to touch on that a little bit. I know, Kim, you've worked on a couple projects that involve this. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, what makes those kind of projects unique and how it changes your process designed for multiple generations in one space?
Yeah, I think it's actually really fun, because the intent is that this home will stay in their generation. I mean, they have visions of it staying for, you know, 5, 6, who knows? Second generation might sell it and cash in. But what we found, that we just did this one home, and it was funny because they talk so much about wanting their kids to be comfortable and their grandkids to be comfortable. And so we kept saying, well, you know, we'd love to send this and have them weigh in. Is this what they want in their room? But it was the parents that were holding the purse strings.
Right, the ones who are paying still want to be the client.
So they only wanted a little bit of influence, not a lot of influence. We're doing another home right now, and it's the son who is managing it all for the mom, but then the sister's involved, and that's a mind game there going on. Yeah, we're just trying to stay up with who said what, and okay, all right, they love that. Okay, that makes them happy. But I love the idea when it's all said and done that they're all going to be together, that families want to be together, that families, you know, we're going back, we spent so much time, everybody's moving away, everybody lives in different places, and I feel like there was a time when we've lost the value of family. And I do see it coming back and people wanting to keep everyone close.
Talk about kind of investing investing in something that's going to stand the test of time and pass it on. Sasha, do you want to add?
Yeah, we just did a home for a client in Telluride, and the purpose of why the client hired me was because she wanted this house for her girls. It was like her girls' house. So everything was designed like really fun and young and like and something that, you know, two girls would really enjoy and be excited to go to for vacations and want to come back to this home all the time. We had the same situation with a project in Wellington. The girls were all equestrians, so the mom really wanted the home to be revolved around their riding and their friends and their community down there. So we get this request all the time, and I actually take Zoom calls and meetings with many clients all the time. And sometimes I have to say, no, we can't do that orange fabric with the pink wallpaper. Like, we just can't do that right now. Like, so, you know, and there's some pushback, honestly. So they could be tough too.
Yeah, totally.
Generational wealth is so important to clients. It's a great way for them to build a history for their children, for their grandchildren, and so forth. And so I try to lean into that when I am proposing something. I always tell clients my job is not to save you money. That is not my job. Yeah. My job is not to save you money. My job is to help you spend your money wisely. And so I remember we had a lovely client. She was well along in her pregnancy. I think she was due to give birth within about a week or two. And so we were talking about a very expensive, beautiful hand-painted mural that was custom done by a wonderful Asian artist. It would take many, many weeks to produce. It would be hung on liner and muslin in this dining room. And it was a six-figure investment. And she was like, how do I justify spending this type of money? I said, let's talk about generational wealth. You're having your first child, and at some point he's going to be grown, and you will be well along in your years. You can take these panels down. They can be framed as artwork or made into folded screens, or, you know, they can be hung again in his children's house. It could be a gift from you as their great-great-grandmother long after you've left this earth, and it's still valuable because of the generational wealth you've built. She got very emotional. She says, where do I sign?
Yeah, there you go.
Build the wealth.
That's a perfect segue into my next, and I want to be mindful. I'm going to ask two more questions, and then we'll open it up to all you, so start thinking of those. But, you know, obviously, as that story demonstrates, you all in this stage are really working at kind of the top of the luxury design market, and I'm sure are really role models to many in this room. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, you know, how you kind of get this level of clientele. Not that it's totally simple and we're going to give you the ABC model, but talk to us a little bit about, you know, how you, you kind of ingratiate yourselves, how you, really earn the trust and the kind of respect of a client at the top of that market. I'm going to open this. I'll let anyone start that.
I would say that it's referral. So I think that the best compliment that you get in interior design is when someone refers you to one of their good friends or a family member. And it happens a lot in our company where referral is what keeps us going. And so making sure that we do a great job on that and create a great relationship in that project brings us more work in the long run and more referrals. So it's the biggest compliment you can get.
I think you can't fake it. You have to genuinely care. You have to genuinely be a good person who cares about your client. Like you said, I mean, I want my clients to have money left over to send their kids to college, but you build these friendships and you're building them. You can't fake it for that long that it can hang on. So I feel like sometimes when you see designers that are successful, it's because they genuinely care about their clients. They genuinely care about their business. They care about the people that work with them, that make them better. And I think when you have, and hard work. Come on, who are we kidding? Hard work. You don't get anywhere without hard work.
I would say be a great creative fiduciary for your client. Watch Wall Street, watch the stocks, watch how the market performs. If they've had a bad day at the market, as far as the stock market, maybe you don't pitch that six-figure wall covering that particular day. You wait until the market rebounds.
Read the room.
And you read the room, and you show them that I am mindful of how you're investing with our firm, but more importantly, how you're investing in yourself. And once they realize that you're more than just a decorator or a designer picking out fun fabrics and paint swatches, but really a financial advisor that's an ally for their success as a household, they will tell all of their wealthy friends about you. And that's a great way to expand the branch of your firm.
I think for me, it's always just been about getting your work out there, photographing your projects, showing the world your point of view, being confident about your work, and just letting as many people as you can possibly see it. So I'm always very very in tune to getting the images and the content and all that stuff. I mean, I think that nowadays there's so many ways to get clients with social media and everything. So for me, I find that really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like, if a tree falls in the forest, no one's there to hear it, right? If you're doing great work, but you're not photographing it, you're not sharing it, people aren't going to know. Yeah. So I want to end, my questions on a kind of a note of a little bit of kind of empowerment. And we're going to talk about, I think one of the things that is often most difficult for creative professionals is really standing strong and valuing your work, our work, right? And especially, in times of financial uncertainty, and really kind of saying, no, this is worth paying for, and this is a good investment. I would love to hear you all talk about how you do that. And Corey, I'm gonna start with you, because you had a really great concept about staying away from this term of markup and why that's important. So let's start with you, and then I'd love to hear from the rest of the group too.
As far as how we charge?
Well, yeah, and the kind of concept of, I think you said, I don't use the term markup because you don't hear like a doctor saying, me doing heart surgery is marking up the price of your heart or whatever. It's just what I do, and you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, you're going to pay for it because you need the service, right? Exactly. Yeah, I don't like using the word markup. It sounds dishonest and it sounds disingenuous. It sounds like you're trying to get over on someone because up means over. Yeah. And so for the client, that just means you're trying to overextend yourself, or as Barclay mentioned, gouge. So we don't mark up. We are happy to give a discount off of the retail. But at the end of the day, again, our job is to be profitable as a firm, and we explain that to the client. We are capitalists. You're not the only capitalist in the room.
Your wealthy clients are going to appreciate that, because so are they.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're here. This is the American way. So, let's all ships rise in the tide. I'll help your ship rise in the tide and stay afloat with my design abilities. And in exchange for that service, we are grateful for your support in helping our firm survive and to continue to thrive no matter what the economic recessions or other waves are happening around the world.
We do say we offer a portion of our discount. We share a portion of our discount with you. That's how we explain it. Followed with, but if we show you something and that's too much and you don't want to spend that much, we're happy to find you something that is more cost effective for you. But we're not going to, we're not going to, if somebody wants to start negotiating.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you stand your ground.
That's the worst.
I don't negotiate with terrorists, no.
Just say no.
Barclay, what about you? How do you stand firm in your value?
I would say actually Corey and I are a lot alike, where I do price down instead of price up. So if you look at retail price down, then already you have the fees that you can include into that price down that covers your freight, covers your delivery, and so on, covers your storage. So you got to look at it, if you're pricing down, they understand that built in are all those other fees that you're not pricing up with. So
I think for me, like talking about financials and money is so uncomfortable with clients. Yeah. So I try and stay out of it as much as possible.
No, but that's a great strategy. You have someone else to do
I
it.
get someone else on my team gets the message across. Because I don't want to be
outsource, baby.
Yeah,
that's a great lesson of leadership.
But I've found it. I found it that it works really well. I think that, you know, as a designer, it's as much of an interview for me as it is for them. And when you start seeing like the orange flags or the red flags of like, you know, the negotiating or all that kind of stuff, you can just kind of step back and be like, well, this is really not the way to start a relationship, because your home is your biggest investment that you're going to make. So, you know, you want to work with people that appreciate the time and effort and creativity that you're putting into their home, and that it comes at a cost, obviously. So I think it's a good idea to kind of let the accountant or the bookkeeper, the office manager, or whoever you have deal with the or your lawyer deal with the negotiations and the finances, and then you come in when it's time to make everything pretty.
And then they are just associating you, right, with the beautiful things and the education and all of that. I love it. All right, well, we're going to open up to questions, but before we do, I just want to say thank you so much. I could talk to you all day, but I know we've got a time limit. Thank you. And I think we're going to lose Barclay to go to his kickoff in a couple minutes. Whenever you need to head out. But any questions from the audience that we can answer?
Give us all your
questions. Don't be shy. Give us the tough questions. You can see this group doesn't hold back.
And it doesn't have to be about interior design. Anything. Ask away.
Do we have mics in the? Oh, perfect. There's someone right here in the front row.
Hi, so it's all of our first market here.
Oh,
so a
welcome.
huge thanks for letting us hear from you guys in this experience. I'm just curious, in the luxury market, are you seeing many clients interested in sustainability? How do you think about that, and how do you talk about it with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that more and more people realize that they need to be mindful of the Earth's resources. One of the greatest ways to honor that is using and working in great antiquity into your projects, whether it be a more modern design or a more traditional neoclassical design. Antiques are a great way to be sustainable, great price point. Well, it could be a great price point for you, but most importantly, it gives
no lead time.
No lead time, and a one-of-a-kind outcome. No one else will have that particular item, so it gives them more authenticity.
Yeah, and we do always ask if they need a charging station in the garage in new builds.
I've seen it a lot. We are using a lot of zero VOCs paints in all of our projects now. There's a paint company we've been using out of France that's infused with lavender that has zero VOCs. Wallpaper also with zero VOCs. We're really cognizant about the fillings of our upholstery now. And then obviously a practice of mine forever is, I mean, since I was 13 years old, I'd go to the garment district in New York City and buy remnant fabrics, and I'm still doing that to this day. So definitely a lot of importance on sustainability now.
And that kind of goes back to the education element too, right? Is that sometimes the client might not even know what is in the foam, and you all have to be coming to market and, you know, asking what are these materials, right?
Well, I was going to say, you know, living in California, we have no choice.
Yeah.
So absolutely, they regulate us already, and there's no lacquer, and there's the stain. What we get in stained products, you know, you already are having to subject yourself to a lot of rules when we buy things from California. So.
Other questions? I see she's coming around with the mic.
My ear perked up on the business end a little bit, and pricing down from retail or whatever you want verbiage-wise. Do you aim for a certain margin on your overall project for products?
I'll answer that, and I think Corey can also. But you know, I think that you always have to think about what does it cost you to run your business. And if you're not making the money, I mean, this is when you have to be right brain, left brain about running a business. Because if you don't make your markup, then all of a sudden you're in the red, and the actual project was not profitable, and then you got to go and make up on 2 different projects to reach what you should have made on the previous project. So why don't you take in consideration what would be my storage costs on this project? Shipping's easy to do, but the problem that I'm finding is that the tariffs. So you have tariffs with manufacturers. Those tariffs are not being put into retail pricing. They're just an add-on on the invoice. So you got to make up for that tariff, be it from E.J. Victor or be it from Chaddock. I mean, there are always going to be these hidden fees that they put into our invoices that aren't accounted for on a retail price list. So
it's also important to remember, and I love that point, it's really important to remember that the discounts that we get as trade members are for us. They are for us. The clients are not entitled to our trade discount. That's that HGTV stuff, right? So that discount, that 40%, whatever that margin might be, that is for our business to thrive, to enable to give these small businesses, these other companies, business.
So that you do have those margins, right?
Right. So if I give you 5 or 10% off the retail price, I am being generous because technically as a trade member, I've earned that through my education, through my experience. That is for our firm to thrive. And if we say you're going to pay retail as a client, guess what? That's also our prerogative as the business. So I want us to kind of, as an industry, we need to kind of get past this whole, I'll give you a discount. My job is not to save you money. My job is to help you spend your money wisely while I mind my own money.
Yeah. Love it. All right, question in the back.
Hi, first of all, it's great to see all of you on the stage. You look great today, and thank you for sharing your expertise with us. I have a very important quick question. You mentioned that the clients you're working with, they are very special. Can you share kindly, please, a way or maybe a strategy you have? How do you get to know the person to provide him with the special interiors in the space they live in? Maybe some important questions to ask. How do you do that, basically?
So kind of how you get to know the client in order to provide the most personal service? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
It's a great question.
I think people love to talk about themselves. In general, people just love to talk about themselves. I happen to be someone that loves to hear what people have to say. So I think a genuine interest in them, in their kids, in their hobbies, in how they started, where did they get. I mean, it can be fascinating if you really take the time to get to know them. And I think that once somebody feels that you genuinely care about them, everything else just happens from there.
And do you all start, I mean, I know a lot of designers will have like a questionnaire you start with to clients, or
but it's pretty general.
Okay.
Like, do you like purple? I mean,
No, I was just going to say I'm a storyteller. And I think if you start with a story and the story pertains to their life, you all of a sudden gain the trust of that person. So being a storyteller, I think, is a really important thing. And it's not bragging about yourself. It's maybe a travel you took or someone you met at dinner, or, there's so many things that you can talk to your clients about. And all of a sudden they see this gentleman is not untouchable, that you are reaching, the person truly. So I think that's a really important aspect to take home from this. And I'm going to sneak out, you guys, so I apologize.
Good luck. Everyone go see Barclay upstairs. Thank you, Barclay.
bye.
Does Sasha or Corey, you want to jump in about?
I think that to really, you definitely have to make the effort to get to know a client, whether it's like having some meals with them or coffee or spending time, reviewing mood boards, asking personal questions, things like that, very important. But at the same time, you also want to keep it professional. So you don't want to get in a situation where a client, where they're kind of abusing the relationship, and they're starting to kind of run the show. That's not what you want to happen. So it's a fine line, and you want to keep it professional, but you also want to keep it friendly and warm, and you have to kind of find that middle area.
Yeah, they are not your friends. They are your employers. but you're not their hired help either. You are a partner on the job. So I agree, Sasha, keep a clean line of demarcation. Don't get too close, but close enough to send a Christmas card when the time is appropriate.
100%. And texting. I mean, text me if you're at an art fair and you find a piece and you need to know if the size works, but don't text
Don't text
it.
me on the weekend at 3
Yeah,
a.m.
or at 9:30 at night
Yeah.
and say, hey, I'm having second thoughts about that color.
You got to set those boundaries, yeah. I think we have time for one more question, and we've got it over there.
Just a quick little question for Sasha. Would you be kind enough to share that paint company that smells like lavender?
Oh. It's called Resource, and it's based out of France.
Okay, maybe we get one more. That felt like a freebie. One more question. Oh, right in the front here? Oh, there's one back here. Okay. I don't know. She's deciding. Yeah.
Over there on that side.
Yeah, we've got it right here.
Oh, great. Okay. Sorry. I'm just following directions.
I had a question and wanted your number one tip on you're relatively new to the design business. You're in a town that's saturated with designers that have lived there 20, 30 years. They know all the contractors. They know all the realtors. What is your tip for breaking through and rather than the realtors and the contractors going the easy way, that's kind of the same look, to exploring you and what unique look you have to offer?
That's a great question.
Okay, number one, manage and maintain your inner value. Because as creatives, we are especially susceptible to imposter syndrome and beating ourselves up, right? We're not like plumbers or electricians where the toilet can be installed sideways or backwards. We dwell and we traffic in the realm of opinion. So the number one thing is to not pay as much attention to social media, how many likes this person has, how many followers. Manage and maintain your own self-value and worth. And remember that if your imposter syndrome starts to creep up, it's like managing a form of cancer. Keep it at a stage 1, not stage 4. Mitigate it. And remember that no one else in your industry, in your area, can do what you can do. You need to reach down deep into that inner, deep, internal design superhero and pull that girl out to break through the chains of fear and doubt and realize that eventually, in time, you will overcome those challenges. And in the meantime, while you're waiting for those doors to open, remember that delay does not mean denial. Delay does not mean denial.
Cheers to that.
I've been in business for 10 years. Everyone on this panel is way more legendary than I am and has been in business longer than I am. But there was a time where I was new and I went to as many events as possible. I attended as many dinners. I, was like super social. Even if I was so tired at night, I would make myself go to everything. And at least in New York, like the beauty of our industry is that my favorite moments are with other designers, whether traveling or having dinner. We share stories about clients. We share stories about contractors. Like we're always sharing, different vendors and people we love working with, decorative painters. Like as long as you kind of put yourself in the mix and ask the right questions and ask for referrals and things like that, like people will, will help you out. And I definitely found that. And like I said, there are times when I'm having issues with clients and I feel like I'm the only one in the world. And then I talk to other designers and they're like, girl, we've been through this like 10 times. This is totally normal. And like, I've lost sleep over this, So I think we're so blessed to be in like such an amazing industry where I feel like it's more supportive than competitive in many ways.
Yeah.
That we really like need to all kind of band together and like work together and hire great people and all of our contractors and painters, and they love that we share our contacts with other designers. We get better deals that way. I just gave you that huge client, that huge designer. Now you have to give me an extra 20 off
And
on
to both of those points too, the reality is like,
you have to give me my show house for free.
rising tide lifts all boats too. The reality, kind of like what you said, Corey, right, is that because we're creative professionals, the really nice thing is no, you're not going to be exactly the same as everyone else. So I think honestly, you can kind of look at that competition in a different light, which is more like there are all these designers in my town maybe, but they might have a client that they meet with and it's like, we're just not right personality-wise, style-wise, or I don't have the bandwidth to take on another client. So make yourself, someone that they will think of to refer to, I think we are there. This is an industry where that happens a lot. Kim, do you want to add?
No, I just, one question we always ask clients that we don't know, new to us, is have you worked with a designer before? And if they're like, oh, yes, I've had 4 different designers, red flag. But if, yeah, exactly, run. But if they say, oh, yes, I've worked with a designer and I loved it, I had the best experience, they may have moved away or they just, it's like, where are you going to get your hair done? Sometimes you just need a change. And I love to hear when people have had a good experience. It makes me so happy. We're just better if all of us are better.
Well, I think that seems like a great note to end on. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to High Point, and thank you, you three.